So, have you ever looked at someone and thought they're fit, they're healthy, they're successful, they must be doing well, only to find out that they're not sleeping at night, that they're putting on belly fat, they have poor recovery, and running on caffeine? That, my friends, is the definition of modern burnout. The interesting thing about this is the body has an amazing capacity to recover and hide these symptoms for a long period of time. What you don't notice by looking at someone that looks athletically fit, you see that they go to the gym every day, is that silently they're already putting on insulin resistance, visceral fat, they have abnormal glucose pathology, their cholesterol is creeping up. And the sad part about that is unless you test, you will never know. So what we deem these people as called is they fit but unhealthy. And a lot of the longevity space is talking about the fact that normal BMI, people who still can look from the outside healthy and well, are actually developing a lot of pathology internally. This is something that doesn't get checked or even thought about on a day-to-day basis. If you're coping, you're doing well at your job every day, you show up, you're making a good income, you're getting your job done, but yet you go home and you just really can't sleep well, you're needing maybe alcohol to sleep, or you're needing excess caffeine in the morning to survive the day, this is when the body is telling you that it's no longer compensating. So one of the common problems when we're still, in our mid 40s and 50s and we're still having a lot on the table, we're in the peak of our careers, we're in the peak of family life, and we maybe have aging parents, is that we don't take time out to check and do a deep dive into our health. You figure, I feel okay, maybe I'm a little bit more tired, maybe I don't feel as great in the gym, so you just kind of carry on. It's not a problem that comes to your awareness, so you never really get it checked out. This is where the damage is happening, and this is actually where you can intervene the most. This is when you're putting on the visceral fat that's driving up your insulin resistance. This is when your glucose levels are kind of spiking all over the place and flagging your poor pancreas that's no longer able to keep up with this. And I think this is really one of the most dangerous points in midlife, and people don't think about, where am I at? I can't tell you how many of the patients that we have now seen that have never had blood tests done ever in their life. They're 40s to 60-year-olds that have never once had their cholesterol checked. They tell me, I'm healthy, I feel fine, why would I get my bloods checked? But this is what you have to realize, is you can exercise every single day of your life and feel like things are good, but exercise is awesome, but it's not a force field. So you really need to think about the fact that you need to know where you're at. You want to plan, as healthy executives and high performers, we're already planning for our future. We have lots of investments in real estate, we have great superannuations, but we're not doing that for our health. We are not taking that deep dive and saying, where am I today? And how am I going to get to the age where I actually get to enjoy my retirement? So I encourage you to take a deep dive. This is when it matters. The point when you're very successful is when you really need to think, okay, I look great from the outside, but what is happening internally? Because the body can cover up a lot of stuff, but biomarkers don't lie. I've been in emergency medicine for over 30 years, and I would say the thing that I really have learned from this journey is that males in particular really ignore symptoms. They can let little nuances change. They can let their health slowly get a little worse, maybe a little more tired, maybe a little bit of a dad bod where they're putting on some fat around the middle, and they still are getting through the day, they're still making good money, they're supporting their families, so they don't need to change anything, they're just surviving, right? These are the guys that end up on my ambulance trolley at 3 o'clock in the morning with crushing chest pain because, things were going well, weren't they? But you don't know. You really need to think about the fact that our bodies are very resilient. They can look great from the outside, but what's going on internally and how our slowly eroding sleep and our living on caffeine and living on protein drinks or energy drinks to get through the day and sacrificing that for whole foods is that those all come with a price. And eventually the body gives out. It does an amazing job for years, but eventually it gets tired. And unless you check for it, you will never know these things. The really big one that I see in men, and maybe it's getting a little better now because the TRT clinics and everything are so popular, is that men are starting to think, oh, maybe I should get my hormones checked. But along with that comes, what's my cholesterol? What's my ApoB? What's my actual cardiovascular risk profile? Do I have elevated lipoprotein A, which is an inherited gene that causes increased high cholesterol? And unless you check these things, you will never know. And it's very common to just adapt and gradually get by with that decline and not address it. But that's when the damage is happening. This is a all hands on deck. You need to know where you're at. So for women, the perimenopause state is a very unfortunate timing. Often this comes at a time when we have teenage kids, we have aging parents, we're still trying to hold down a career, and all of a sudden our hormones crap out. Great timing, right? So it's often, this is a tradition of women and us as moms, as we prioritize everybody else. We prioritize our job, we prioritize our kids, our parents, and we ignore what's going on and just try to muscle through the day, push forward. So the problem is that's when the damage is happening. As long as you keep pushing forward and you're not addressing these things and figuring out where you're at, this is when your bone density is dropping because your estrogen has walked out the door. This is when you're losing muscle mass. This is when your brain is starving for estrogen and you're starting to get the brain fog and you're not coping as well for your family or your job. This is not pushing through. You can't be a high performer if you're not actually looking after yourself. And you're a better parent and you're a better employee when you're actually healthy and have energy and mental clarity. So this is a time when you really need to pay attention. Another issue that comes with being a high achiever or a high executive is that the old adage, was it James Dean that said, I can sleep when I'm dead? Often we think, oh, I can just push through, I can stay up later, I can do all my emails, I can work on this project late at night. 4 or 5 hours of sleep, I'll be fine. Just carry on, push through. But the problem is eventually that sleep debt builds up and your job actually is suffering. A lot of people think I'll sacrifice my sleep for success, but eventually you end up sacrificing your success because you didn't sleep. So one of the red flags that you can really pay attention to is if you notice that you get up in the morning, you can get out the door, you're drinking your 2 or 3 cups of coffee or maybe having a energy drink on your way to a meeting, and that you're pushing through, you're bringing in the meetings, you're bringing in the stress, you're bringing in all the caffeine, but then in the afternoon you're crashing. That to you should be a red flag, because what that means is your cortisol is out of whack. All of your hormones are being suppressed by these cortisone fluctuations. If you experience those symptoms, get checked. This is when your body is suffering. This is when the inflammation is going through the roof. Your hormones are being suppressed by the cortisol. You really need to figure out, where am I at? So don't push through, get tested. So from a longevity perspective, what you have to think about is, can I get through this week and push harder to achieve my goal for next week? What you really want to bring back in and think about is, how am I going to get to the end of my life? What am I doing now that's going to sustain me to the end of my life in a healthy state, where I'm still independent, where I have mental clarity, where I still have energy? And you have to start planning for this now. You got to think the big picture. If you want to live to 100, which many of us have the capability of doing, you got to plan now for that and not keep sacrificing what am I going to do to get through to next week, and think about what am I going to do to get through to the end of my life. So myth number 1, just work harder. This is not true, my friends. This comes at a huge price that your body pays. Myth number 2 is that we just need to be more disciplined. The truth of the matter is, high executives, high achieving winners are not have a problem with discipline. What they have a problem with is recovery. So the key takeaway, I would say, for executives, the things that I worry about that are internally going on that you have to get tested at a specialty clinic. These are not biomarkers that every GP tests, and these are not things that you get on your annual exam, are looking at things like lipoprotein A, fasting insulin, fasting glucose, your ApoB, your thyroid studies on a deep level, multiple levels of thyroids, not just your TSH. You need to do things like wear a glucose monitor that tells you what is spiking your blood sugar and what's causing the crashes, what foods trigger you. You need to get a DEXA scan that looks at what is my bone density today and how am I going to preserve that for the end of my life, and what is my muscle mass, which is the one intervention that I can control to support my bones. Where am I at today? These are something you cannot sacrifice. These are a must-do. Burnout is not a motivation problem, it's a recovery problem. Your body can compensate for years before you burn out. The most dangerous burnout is the burnout that nobody sees. Visible fitness and internal health are not the same thing. Success can hide physiological decline for a surprisingly long time. So my takeaway point, my friends, is test, don't guess. Find out what your numbers are. This is something that you can't have supervision to see internally.